I just want to begin by welcoming Vicky Phelan home. She's on her way home. I'm delighted that she's on her way home to her family, and I hope she gets to spend a lot of time with them in the coming days and weeks, quality time, because without her I don't think we'd be here today discussing this in all its issues and failings and positive aspects to it, but we certainly wouldn't be here discussing it. So I just want to put that on the record. I was in touch with her last night, so she's looking forward to coming home. Minister, look, we'll be supporting this bill. I don't know if anyone would oppose it, but it's purely a technical bill for the extension of the tribunal, which is passed by these houses. I accept that, but you know, we all know that this is limited. 5 women are actually using the tribunal, which says it all for me. I've had many discussions with you on this. I've had many discussions with the Taoiseach on this. And while we are going to vote this through tonight, I don't think it's going to have any much impact, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, and I say that really unfortunately, because this is not the way it was meant to be. Last October you signed a statutory instrument to commence the tribunal, even though you'd pledged and made pledges in relation to consultation and what you were going to do to try and make the tribunal better, and it just didn't work out. I really felt the way in which that was done was so haphazard and wrong. I told you at the time, and I'm on record in relation to it. Good faith was lost around then. I know, because I was dealing with 221, I was dealing with Lorraine, Stephen, Vicky and many others. And that's when good faith was lost, and ultimately that's when they all came out and said that they wouldn't advocate for any woman or family to go through this process. And now we've 2.5 million spent on it for 5 cases. And I don't believe there'll be many more cases. I think it's overstating it to say that there will be. When we gathered in Leinster House on 22nd of October 2019, the Taoiseach, then party leader of Fianna Fáil, said, "We have found the truth and the facts and are making changes to put that right. We need to restore trust and rebuild relationships that have been seriously damaged." On September the 2nd, the Minister for Health met online with the 221 group. All the concerns were gone through. Your party leader spoke of restoring trust, but the issues were never dealt with. About the tribunal being non-adversarial, unfortunately, that's just not the case. Allowing women to have reoccurrences of cancer to go back to the tribunal. Lorraine Walsh in particular highlighted this. She put a huge amount of effort into trying to sort this out. That's not dealt with. Why labs have to be brought into it has not been addressed fully. The HSE are primarily liable. I'll get onto that in a minute. I guarantee that the HSE would not object. The issues of statute of limitation, which has already been referenced. All 5 of these were sincerely raised, Minister, but they weren't dealt with. And I really have an issue with a lack of respect for what the Chief Justice decided following the Ruth Morrissey judgment. Now, I've spoken so much about this inside here. It is a stain on us as a legislator that we have not dealt with what the Chief Justice has obviously asked us to do and pointed at us to do in relation to the outcome of the Ruth Morrissey judgment, which we know was appealed by the last government. I stood alone, I think, or there may have been 1 or 2 with me, saying that that was the wrong thing to do. And then the judgment was again verified in the Supreme Court. But it changed everything. Ruth Morrissey was an amazing woman. Absolutely amazing woman who into the future, I believe, because of her case and the way she stood, will have changed Ireland for so many people in this area. So the HSE is now primarily liable for these cases where negligence is found. So why aren't these issues being dealt with beforehand, and why aren't they being dealt with much quicker? Following the recommendations of the Chief Justice to us as legislators, It is not a requirement in the government's, why is it not in the government's legislative programme to change the Civil Liability Amendment Bill to ensure that women are not faced with having to choose, and this is scandalous, having to choose between taking cases or allowing their families to do so after they pass? These are not equal options. It's not tolerable. It's not fair. And Minister, you know, and your Taoiseach knows, because I spoke to him, that I have actually drafted a bill on this to deal with this issue, so that they don't have to face into that choice between taking cases or allowing their families to do so after they pass away. I've never even received a response of any substance. I'm not saying that the bill I produced is in any way perfect. In fact, it probably isn't. But it's the start. And it's a start that's gone on now for the guts of a year and a half to 2 years. I believe we have to deal with what Chief Justice Clark said, but we've had radio silence. The draft bill which I've done permits both legal actions to be taken while prohibiting double recovery. The draft amends Section 48 of the 1961 Act to provide that where a person before their death has brought an action and recovered damages in respect of a wrongful act that caused the death, and a court, if it was awarding damages in an action under Section 48 for the benefit of the dependents, would be entitled to take account of heads of damage additional to those in respect of which damages would have been awardable in an action brought by the person before their death. Minister, you and your Taoiseach, and you at times justifiably castigate some people in opposition for not having alternatives or not bringing forward solutions. So the one thing I do want to ask you today is, I have brought forward a solution. It's been identified by the Chief Justice as a real massive issue. It's unfair on so many people to be left in this position. Will you and your government please engage with me? I've made the first steps in relation to this. Our party has. My good friend Vicky Phelan, when speaking about the establishment of the tribunal, asked why was it so hard for the government to do the right thing by the women of Ireland? And she is right. Everything that has been done in the aftermath of the CervicalCheck scandal has been done with a paternalistic lens, particularly as regards how we ploughed on with this tribunal. So now we have a situation where many women are being advised not to participate in this. We have a $2.5 million cost, we have 5 cases, and we have an empty, purposeful, fitted-out building costing the state $600 grand a year. It's not good. This legislation needs to be done because it needs to obviously extend, given the circumstances that we found ourselves in over the last year at the tribunal. But it doesn't deal with the fundamentals of how we ended up getting here. This is flawed. I wouldn't advise any woman, and I've met many of them, probably more than anyone else in this house, and their families. I wouldn't advise anyone to go through this tribunal. And that's not good, as somebody who had to vote on it. Women and their families want to have confidence not just in the tribunal, but also in the screening programme. And we all know that screening is not diagnostic, but bringing screening home will go a long way to helping build up confidence in the system. Knowing that their smears are not being sent off to different corners of the world will give women peace of mind. And that must be a big priority for you now, Minister. And the other issue, which I want to welcome the changes in the people who have been appointed to different roles across the screening programme, but I do want to sound one word of advice, and that is this: the paternalistic attitude in any form has to go. What Vicky Phelan exposed as regards how some minority in the medical profession looked down and spoke to their patients has to stop. Patients ask questions. They're entitled to ask questions about their own health. And I'd be worried, and I've said this in here before, if a little bit of that creeps back in, Minister, that paternalistic I know better attitude from some people. So just flagging it for you, because I've seen some stuff that I'm not very happy about. I want to end in the words of the great woman that is Vicky Phelan, who said the following: confidence comes from actions, not words. If an absence of trust continues, it is in the absence of action by the state to deal fully with the past. The change that is needed must come from within the system. It is never too late to do the right thing. The discourse will follow.